The Oscar nominations are out, and we're here to talk about it tonight on Real to Real Talk. Welcome, everybody, to this episode of Real to Real Talk. I am Sergio Barrera, and it's time once again to talk all things cinema. Joining me, as always, is my other Real to Real Talker, Paul Britton, and once again, honorary Real to Real Talker, Kristen Smith. Kristen, thanks for once again joining us.
Semi-permanent guest.
Yes, yeah, absolutely.
This needs to be official. Let's just put this in cement.
I agree. Kristen, it's great to have you back once again because this week we get a chance to follow up on our conversation from last week. Last week we talked about predictions we had for the Academy Awards. Nominations were released this past Tuesday morning. And tonight we're going to take a look at the nominations that actually were announced. And so I'm excited to have this discussion with both of you. Before we even get into the basic categories, let me just get your overall impressions as you read through or watched the presentation, whichever it was. What are your impressions, and what are we excited about as we head towards the award ceremony in March?
Go ahead, Kristen. I want to hear yours first. Yeah.
Well, there were a lot of surprises. A lot of them, in my opinion, were mostly pretty good. Like, for example, Jessie Buckley in supporting actress. She was amazing. I loved her. I honestly thought she was better than Olivia Colman. So, I was super happy to see her. And she was the first nomination that morning, which, of course, we knew everything was going to be fucked. I was super happy for Drive My Car. Drive My Car historically being the first Japanese movie nominated for Best Picture, as well as Best Director, Best Adapted Screenplay, Worst Person in the World, surprising an original screenplay, which, last week we gushed about, and I was just not expecting it. I was not prepared for it. And then, just surprised that Belfast underperformed, West Side Story underperformed, Dune underperformed in Missing Director, which is baffling that we got Kenneth Branagh and we missed, Denis Villeneuve. What the fuck happened?
And to pile onto that, congratulations to Steven Spielberg. But I mean, over what that West Side Story over what Villeneuve did in Dune, come on. I mean, come on. It's night and day what was going on in those two movies.
Paul, did you really briefly, like I did, whenever you saw that we were getting into the W's, that the worst person in the world was going to get director? Because I almost thought that for a brief second.
No, and I at no point did I think that the fact that it got screenplay. I was on my notes I have worst in huge letters. It takes up 2 lines with exclamation marks, and I think that's really the start of and the end of excitement for me because the rest of it was just disappointment city. I was just because immediately after that I realized, wait a second, French Dispatch didn't get nominated. And then it was just a whole bunch of categories that I feel like French Dispatch absolutely does original things that are fun and interesting and just not recognized for it, while West Side Story, gets it. It's
yeah.
I mean, and you mentioned Belfast got, underperformed, but considering what Belfast was, I don't feel like it underperformed. I feel like it overperformed.
Oh no, it underperformed.
It didn't, because Judi Dench got nominated, and it's what?
Well,
why? What?
Over Katrina Balfe, though, Ralph was the one who was
I
like,
could give you a dozen names that would make far more sense than Judi Dench. Even Frances McDormand in French Dispatch. She's amazing in that movie.
like, I'm not going to defend Belfast. Y'all know it was my least favorite movie last year. I fucking hate Belfast. Belfast is the worst. I hate it so much.
But like underperforming would have been like it got next to nothing. And
well, like it missed editing, it missed cinematography, it missed art direction. So like for some people, like it showed less strength.
And how weird is it that the cinematography and art direction are just like, all right, we're just gonna do the same, just copy paste, move it along. That's very unusual. It's not uncommon for like the one film to win both, but to just say like, these are both worthy. Like, I mean, Nightmare Alley, 100% art direction. Cinematography, I mean, it's okay. It's fine.
I'm sure it's better than Belfast.
Yeah, and same same thing with Tragedy of Macbeth. It's like only reverse. Like I felt the art direction. I understand. Like it's different, but it's very very minimalist. Whereas the cinematography, like I feel like that the cinematography is really what does it there. And West Side Story getting both annoys me. There's nothing new or interesting or different going on in the cinematography or art direction in that movie.
Yeah, like West Side Story, like my main thing I did not like about the cinematography was just that there were so many lens flares. Like every single shot like had a light in the background shooting towards it. So there was always a lens flare like every single time. And I was just like, we get it. We get it, Steven Spielberg.
Right.
Do something else.
Yeah.
So as we get into our basic categories, we're gonna look at the acting awards first, just to get a sense of because y'all jumped right into the technical awards. But let's talk a little bit about the nominees for actor in a leading role. Some of these I think are not surprised by. In fact, most of these I don't think we are. Nominated for actor in a leading role from Being the Ricardos, Javier Bardem, Benedict Cumberbatch for The Power of the Dog, Andrew Garfield for Tick, Tick, Boom, Will Smith for King Richard, and Denzel Washington for The Tragedy of Macbeth. Surprises or good, glad that happened moments within that list?
I mean, it was basically the same 5 as SAG. So like there wasn't really surprises.
Yeah, this one was very chalky. It was just like and honestly, as things were coming down, it was obvious. 3 were obvious. Benedict Cumberbatch, Garfield, and Will Smith were going to get nominated. And that just kind of felt like it was destined to be. And because it's the Academy Awards, you kind of probably could put Denzel Washington in there. It just became a question of, is the most star effiest wing going to just go ahead and give Javier Bardem a nomination or not? And they did. That was disappointing. And I don't know exactly who I would say, oh, this person is more worthy. I'd have to stop and think about it for a little bit. But well, obviously, I don't remember the dude's name, but the lead actor from Drive My Car would obviously be a great pick, if we're gonna go super obvious. But like just Being the Ricardos is just like you said. You hated Belt. I hate it. I didn't hate Being the Ricardos, but it was such dross. I don't know. It's good.
I hate Being the Ricardos.
Okay. Yeah.
I turned it off after 15 minutes. I could not stand it.
Yeah. So like,
Yeah, I think for me on the list, the one that I thought, along with Javier Bardem, who's a fantastic actor, I thought that was not a good call in terms of how I felt. I was surprised by Will Smith. I don't know why. I can't put a finger on why that.
A lot of people are expecting him to win.
Yeah,
golly, but maybe. But I really hope Benedict Cumberbatch picks up the Oscar. He's my hope in this category And trust me, I love Andrew Garfield, and so
Yeah, he would be my second place.
yeah, and so again, an interesting field, but again, it kind of played by the numbers with what we've seen so far in the nominations that have happened. Moving on to actor in a supporting role, we have Kieran Hines for Belfast, Troy Kutzer for Coda, Jesse Plemons for The Power of the Dog, along with Cody Smith-McPhee, and J.K. Simmons from Being the Ricardos. So I can speak to The Power of the Dog and Belfast in this category. Might this be Jesse Plemons' year?
Oh, no.
No, it's going to be Cody Smith-McPhee. Cody Smith-McPhee's performance in Power of the Dog is so much more powerful.
He's really good.
True.
But the dark horse is also Troy Kotzer, because Troy Kotzer is my personal favorite. He has a lot of passion votes. Like, people like Coda a lot. And it's very possible, like, you can kind of get a Glenn Close kind of situation where people are so sure one person's going to get the award that they'll go for another person. And that's how Olivia Colman got her Oscar.
So I have two problems with this category. It's Jesse Plemons, who I love. I absolutely love, but I mean, it's just what he does in the movie versus what Cody Smith-McPhee does in the movie. It's just like it's incomparable, and you like it just that nomination doesn't make sense to me. And the J.K. Simmons, I love me some J.K. Simmons, but are you flat out telling me that you can't, like, love it or hate it, what Jared Leto does in the movie that got another surprise that got shut out. Talk about movies that were underperformed. House of Gucci getting just basically nothing. I mean, and Bradley Cooper and Licorice Pizza. There were a lot of really interesting supporting actor performances. Also, I don't remember the dude's name, but the guy from Westworld. I'm horrible with names, so just
Jeffrey Wright.
Yeah, from in French Dispatch. I mean, that monologue that he delivers at the end of French Dispatch, and just the acting that he's doing in that scene. I'm getting goosebumps just thinking about it right now.
Yeah, he's my personal top 5 too. I loved him in that movie.
Yeah, and the guy, the male lead in Worst Person in the World. He has to play somebody in literally like 3 different phases, and like what he does is every bit as good as what the lead actress does, and absolutely could have been, should have, would have, could have been nominated here. I just think I felt like this category had an opportunity to be interesting. It's just not. It's just not like I look at the list and it's like Tony Kotzer is clearly the dark horse, but Cody Smith-McPhee is the obvious, and everybody else is kind of like, I don't know. Okay.
Yeah. Well, to launch from that point, the category that has the most movies Sergio hasn't seen yet is actress in a leading role, because we have Jessica Chastain for The Eyes of Tammy Faye, Olivia Colman for The Lost Daughter, which I have seen, from Parallel Mothers, Penelope Cruz, Being the Ricardos, Nicole Kidman, and Kristen Stewart. As you mentioned, Kristen picks up the nomination for actress in a leading role for Spencer. I really don't feel like I can speak to who I think should, because 4 of the 5 I haven't seen. So I'll defer to y'all.
Let me just really quick. This is who I think should win in this category. Lady Gaga in House of Gucci, or Alana Haim in Licorice Pizza, or Amelia Jones in Coda, or Renate her last name in Worst Person in the World, or Tessa Thompson in Passing. Those were 5 of the 6 nominees in BAFTA of movies who I have seen, and who were all better, more interesting, and exponentially more compelling than any of the 5 people that are nominated here on this list. That's just this is an abysmal list for Best Actress, and it's infuriating. It's just infuriating. It's just It's like, here, ladies, these are the roles that you need to take. Super safe, play somebody else that's famous already. Don't take any, don't do anything that puts you outside of your comfort zone. Go. And it's like, really, this is where we're going? It's a disappointing list in my mind.
I disagree.
Okay.
And I will disagree with the preface that the first 4 names, like the alternate names that you gave, are 4 out of 5 of my top 5 of actress this year.
Mhm.
So, like, I'll agree. I love Lady Gaga more than all of these performances. I love Alana Haim more than all of these performances. But some of these are really good still. Like, Chastain, I think, does a really surprising performance.
I have a really hard time disassociating the performance from the screenplay, and I think the screenplay is abysmal. Like, I just think
it's terrible. Yeah.
And I is that unfair of me? I don't think it's unfair of me. Like, I just it's like, if you go all in, good for you. But ultimately, what are you doing? You're going all in on something that's just not good. I mean, it's just like what they're doing. Like,
Right.
Hi, let's just change history here, and the impact that these people had on the planet.
And at the same time, Lady Gaga is an example of a movie that I think is really bad, but she does a phenomenal performance because she just really goes there in the movie.
Yes.
And so, like, because of that, it was one of my favorite performances because she's just unhinged and loud and crazy. And it's insane that she did not get in. And like, I think Kristen Stewart is the worst thing about Spencer. And I love Spencer. But at the same time, I'm also just happy for her. Like, I'm just happy that she has this. A lot of us thought she was the front runner for a very long time, and then it looked like she was not going to get in. And then to have her name be the last one out, like, everyone went crazy. And I loved it.
Yeah. I mean, all of these actors that are in this category obviously have done some amazing work, and so I think we could probably have an entire discussion on why did this end up being the list, given other performances and other nominations that have occurred across other awards groups. But it'll be interesting to see because one of the things I've got to do between now and the ceremony, obviously, is catch up on some of these films. So it might be fun to sort of revisit this conversation over this category once we do our review of the awards themselves in a few weeks. So
yeah, Parallel Mothers is the only one in like the top 5 categories that I haven't seen yet. So
yeah, I haven't seen that one either.
Yeah,
gotcha.
It's tough.
Okay.
It's playing in theaters. I just could not find the time.
Yeah. So
we might have to talk about it. All right.
Yeah.
Actress in a supporting role gives us Jessie Buckley, which I was extremely pleased as well when I saw that name on the list. I didn't get a chance to see the nomination list until my first break during work, and I was just so pleased to see that list or that name. Ariana DeBose for West Side Story, Judi Dench for Belfast, Kirsten Dunst for The Power of the Dog, and Anjanou Ellis for King Richard. My hope lies on Jessie Buckley. I really think that for all the performances on this list that I've seen, hers was the most impactful. So that is my hope in this category.
Right now, many of us consider Ariana DeBose probably going to most likely sail to this win.
Sure, I agree.
And I don't really like that performance.
Really?
I think she's one of the weakest performances in that movie. Like,
wow.
But I also feel like the reason why is because the last half of the movie, like, I was not here for your West Side Story review, unfortunately, because I would have had a lot to say.
Okay.
But Yeah, I think it's just because like her Oscar-y moments are in the final, like last half of the movie. In the last half, I have so many problems with.
Oh, it's a nightmare. And the source material on this one is just the third act is just an absolute nightmare of a movie.
And so, like on one hand, I am very happy that DeBose and Stewart are, nominated because those are the first two openly gay actresses to be nominated for acting Oscars, and that's awesome.
Sure.
But I'm with you too, Sergio, that like I want Buckley to win, and I don't think it's gonna happen. But maybe.
And Buckley is why I'm annoyed with the Olivia Colman nomination, just because Olivia Colman is fine in this movie. In The Lost Daughter, she's fine. She brings nothing to it though. Like it's all Buckley. That movie 100% works for because of
Blair, I had the same thing. The same goddamn thing. Who fucks the guy that murders your brother?
Yes.
And when it fades to black and fades up that they are now naked in bed together, I went, this makes no sense. You did not ease this into this. Of all the things that you modernized in this goddamn story, this is one that you could not figure out.
Nope. No. And the whole point with so in Romeo and Juliet, they're cousins. Like, okay, maybe you fuck the guy who killed your cousin. Maybe. Your brother who you have loved and respected and looked up to throughout the whole movie, even if you do have a little, oh, you're too demanding on me. Okay, so that the third act is a wreck. The third act of West Side Story is an absolute wreck. But I did Ariana in the first two acts. I disagree with you. I thought Ariana DeBose was amazing. I thought she absolutely owned that the first act, and I just absolutely owns the first act.
But if we had Mike Feist nominated, I would totally be for it.
There's somebody else that we could have thrown in Best Supporting instead of Plemons and J.K. Simmons.
I would be happy for a Mike Feist to win Best Supporting Actor.
Yeah.
And I'm not a huge fan of that movie, but Mike Feist is great.
He wasn't even nominated, so.
So my last comment on actors in a supporting role, because every so often the Academy surprises us. I am keeping an eye on Anjanou Ellis. I know most of us would probably say no, but I would not be surprised if something like that were to occur in this category.
I would be surprised.
But we'll see.
I would be very surprised.
That would be cool. I would be cool with that. That would be really cool.
I would not be cool with that.
All right. So before we get to Best Picture, let's kind of breeze over some of the other categories. I know that at some point it's probably a good idea, Paul, I don't know if you'll agree, but maybe we talk about animated feature films in a future episode ahead of the ceremony. But we have Encanto, which of course is, I would say, the front runner. Flea, Luca, The Mitchells versus the Machines, and Ray and the Last Dragon. This is the first year in which I've seen more than half of the list. And so, Paul,
You're
this
welcome.
is sort of your wheelhouse. And any surprises here, or was this
no surprises? This was the list. This was the list. And I actually did finally get to see Flea this week because it was released on Hulu. And you have to see Flea. Yes. I don't think it's going to win. I don't think it's going to win. And I honestly don't want it to win. Not in this category. Not in this category. I'm sorry. But I as an animated film, it's okay as an animated. It's amazing as a film, but I when I'm looking at animated feature, I have something that I'm looking for, and it's like the animation's very, very messy, which is okay, but in some parts it works, some parts it doesn't. There's a whole thing. All right, I take animation very seriously. Encanto is just a beautiful movie. It's the favorite. I hope it wins. People like the general public who don't generally like animated films for some reason, like Mitchell's versus the Machines, that's okay. I don't understand it. I thought it was okay, but that's fine. But Encanto is so special. But if Flea won, I'd be totally jazzed. That would be awesome. Because Flea is amazing. 3 nominations, totally deserved.
Now, Kristen, I have to ask, because you've not been with us long enough to have the discussion of your feelings about animated films, because Paul and I do land on different sides of that particular topic. But your thoughts on animated films overall, and then your thoughts on this list in terms of how you feel it plays out.
I don't care for animated films. I'm sorry.
That's okay. I'm not a fan. I'm not that big a fan either. I've seen many, more so now because I do the show. But I would say I was curious.
I also kind of expect Encanto pretty much just has, like, we have seen this in the past where Oscar tends to go to Pixar, like Pixar, Disney, even in years where people are kind of like, this is a lesser Pixar. Like, I think Brave was kind of that. Like, a lot of people weren't expecting Brave to win. And I actually like Brave. Like, I finally saw it. I was stoned out of my mind, and it was great.
Yeah.
But yeah, I just don't really watch animated films.
I can assure you, Encanto is in the realm of animated films. It really is. It's special. It's really good.
I will take your word for it.
Yeah, and it will. I would say almost with 99%, not 99.99% certainty, it'll pick up the Oscar. The only other thing I'll say about this category, and Paul, this goes to you. Seeing Raya and the Last Dragon there made me realize how much time has passed since Raya and the Last Dragon, and I thought, was that this cycle? It was
this summer, my man.
As my wife likes to say, COVID time is weird time. So yeah, that seems like a lifetime ago. All right. So we have technical categories like cinematography, costume design. You guys y'all touched on these earlier. On costume design, you guys know I was looking forward to seeing Dune on that list, but we also have Cruella. Again, another moment of like,
Cruella is really, I was really surprised by Cruella because I watched it since it was basically the front runner, and I really liked Cruella. I was not expecting to like it as much as I did.
Yeah. Well, and along with Cruella, we have Cyrano, Nightmare Alley, West Side Story, and of course Dune for costume design. So, again, we'll see how it all plays out. Documentary feature, Paul, Kristen, have y'all looked into any of these?
I have.
I need to.
I've seen 3 of them.
Okay.
I've seen 2.
Okay.
All right.
I mean, Summer of Soul is one of my top 5 movies of the year.
We actually did. We reviewed that. Yes.
Right. So I would love to see Summer of Soul win. I would be super awesomely happy if Flea won. I watched Attica this week also, and Attica is fine. It's interesting. It's really interesting, and I do recommend people watch it. But like, I don't know. It's not like it's not really Academy worthy, if you ask me. Like, Velvet Underground would have made a little more sense as a nominee over Attica.
Or The Rescue, which a lot of people actually thought The Rescue was going to win.
The favorite, yeah. The Rescue is fantastic, and that's another good example of a movie that I like. It's just way more as a film. As a movie, it's more interesting than Attica. Attica is interesting as like a historical piece, but as a movie, it's okay. Unlike Flea and Summer of Soul, which are just amazing as historical pieces and movies themselves.
Yeah. I've only seen Flea and Summer of Soul, so I'm rooting for Flea because I stopped Summer of Soul, I think, halfway through because I was just not into it, unfortunately.
I loved it. I love
the music. Like, it's kind of like subject matter, it should work, but there was just something about the structure that just, just did not sit well with me.
Mm.
But I'm
Okay.
happy. Like, I would be so happy for Questlove to have an Oscar. Like, that would be
Sure.
great.
Yeah.
I'm excited for that to happen.
All right. Well, because of time, there are going to be some topics that we'll probably save for future episodes. But we would be remiss if we did not talk about international feature film nominated for this Oscar are Drive My Car, Flee, The Hand of God, Lunana, A Yak in the Classroom, and The Worst Person in the World. We have great love for 3 of the 5, if not more. I need to catch up on 2 of these, The Hand of God and Lunana. So thoughts, team, as we talk about the possibilities for international feature film.
The entire world needs to catch up on Yak in the Classroom, because I don't think anybody but the people who voted for it have seen it. Like, that was
No,
a really...
some people were legitimately predicting it. I almost did.
Really?
But
Interesting.
I thought, but A Hero not making it was
A Hero is so good. Oh.
But yeah, so I have seen Drive My Car, which, like, obviously, since it has 4 nominations, like, kind of de facto front runner, since it's the only one nominated for Best Picture. Flee, I love. Worst Person in the World, I love. Hand of God, I hate. It is just boring to me.
Oh, really? Interesting. Okay. I haven't seen that one yet. So
it looks like it's filmed in 30 frames per second, and that drives me insane.
Okay.
All right. So let's talk directing. For director, we have, let me bring my list up here. For Belfast, Kenneth Branagh. Drive My Car. Please help me with pronunciation if I mess it up.
Oh, Ryusuke.
Is it Hamaguchi?
Yeah, Ryusuke Hamaguchi.
Yeah, Hamaguchi. Yeah.
House of Hamaguchi.
Paul's personal favorite, Paul Thomas Anderson for Licorice Pizza, Jane Campion for The Power of the Dog, and Steven Spielberg for West Side Story. I remember just distinctly from last week, we all thought Steven Spielberg may not, but here he is. Jane Campion's my pick. But there are a lot of there's a lot of great work here that can be recognized, and I don't include Kenneth Branagh for myself personally on the list of.
And I don't include Steven Spielberg either. I think I got to call you out, Kristen, on your Facebook feed. You mentioned that you love the director's wing and you think they're interesting, or I don't remember exactly what you said, but you mentioned that you thought they were interesting, and I mean, this list is, there's 3 good ones and 2 like that. I mean, 2 that are just like, that's not interesting at all. Like, yeah. and
but they'll do that sometimes. Like, I feel that way in 2019. 2019 was Parasite. I love. 1917. I also loved, but Joker, Irishman, and what is it? Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. I was not really fond of those movies.
We can have a whole episode about The Irishman, because I hated that movie so much.
I have a lot of feelings about it. But at the same time, like, Hamaguchi making there was enough for me.
That's
awesome. That was amazing.
Yeah.
Jane Campion also gonna coast to an Oscar, be the first woman to be the 3rd woman to probably win that Oscar.
Yeah.
And I'm happy for Paul Thomas Anderson because, Licorice Pizza was in my top 5. And there was a period where a lot of us did not expect him to make it in. So, I'm super happy for him to be in.
Yeah. And I'm super sad for Villeneuve. I don't want to go through the whole list, but the writing categories are so much more interesting than the director categories this year. And for me, that's the way it always is. I'm always way more interested in the writing categories than the director.
I have a theory that my gut is starting to think that Drive My Cars might win adapted.
I would love to see 2 wins for foreign language films in the screenplays, Worst and Drive My Car. That would just be so amazing. That would be so much fun and craziness. Although I think what's going to happen, I think this is one of those instances where PTA gets writing and somebody else gets directing. Like they'll give PTA his Oscar for writing because Licorice Pizza. I think the script is the best part of Licorice Pizza personally, even though I have problems with the whole romantic angle thing. But the writing is really, really good, even if I don't necessarily like this one little, although extremely major detail of it. But yeah, so.
Kristen, you were talking about Drive My Car a moment ago. I think there was a follow-up thought you had in relation to this.
Oh, no, that's okay. It was like my theory is based off of last year, because last year with Nomadland being the clear front runner for most of the stuff, like people kind of assumed like, oh, picture, director, and adapted screenplay are going to easily for Chloe Zhao. And this year, kind of the same thing with Power of the Dog seemingly being the undisputed frontrunner for Best Picture at this point, with 12 nominations.
Yeah.
That like people might, and assuming that she's going to win director, they might branch off and do something different, which they've done in the past.
Yeah.
That's what happened with The Father. The Father surged very late. And I would be looking out for BAFTA, because if Drive My Car wins BAFTA's adapted screenplay, it's possible it could also win at the Oscars too, because that's what happened with The Father.
Gotcha.
We'll see.
Indeed. Final category, Best Picture. I don't think any of us are surprised by what was picked. West Side Story, The Power of the Dog, Nightmare Alley, Licorice Pizza, King Richard, Dune, Drive My Car, which we were all happy about, Don't Look Up, Coda, and Belfast. Is The Power of the Dog a lock?
No.
Okay.
I
think so. But Paul, what are your thoughts?
Because nothing's ever a lock. Nothing is ever a lock. Is it the favorite? Yes. Do I understand why it's the favorite? Yes. Does it deserve to be the favorite? Probably. Does that mean it's going to win? No, I don't think that means it's going to win. Even though last year, kind of the movie that was, sitting in the pole position did win Nomadland. I don't think that happens more often than it doesn't. I think more often something else comes in and wins, and I don't see it going chalk this year. I just don't. I think something weird might happen. I don't know what. But I just kind of feel like it's the favorite, but it's not a lock.
Okay.
I would say it probably has an uphill battle. But I feel like the other movies that would be able to possibly win have a large obstacles to stop it. Like Belfast, Licorice Pizza, West Side Story, they don't have editing. And historically, unless you're a one-take movie, like you typically have an editing nomination, because since 1980, only 2 movies have gone on to win Best Picture without an editing nomination. That was Ordinary People and Birdman. You're looking at me crazy.
No, I understand what you're saying. I thought the editing nominations this year sucked. I
agree with you.
So I hope you're wrong, because the nominations and editing were just so forgettable. Honestly, just completely and utterly forgettable. So
yeah, that's where I think Best Original Screenplay is probably the big one to watch, because Belfast winning it has a route to Best Picture. Licorice Pizza wins it has a potential route to Best Picture. If Worst Person in the World gets it, it's The Power of the Dog to lose at that point.
Yeah.
That makes sense.
If those movies could not even win a goddamn writing award, then yeah, it's probably Power of the Dog.
Right.
No. All right. Well, the fact of the matter is we have a few weeks before the awards are given out. I'm sure there'll be much more conversation here on the show as we are always excited about this time of year. Lots of movies for me to catch up on, and I'm sure that the same can be said for a lot of folks out there, which I want to take a moment to say thank you to those of you who are joining us here tonight live on YouTube. It's really awesome to see the commentary we always have from our friend Blair. I want to say also thank you to Pastel and Blush who are commenting.
Those are his daughters, by the way. He brought his daughters along.
That's awesome. Well, we thank you all for joining us, and we appreciate that you share your thoughts with us. You can continue to follow us, those of you out in the world watching on our social media. Look for us on Facebook. Just look up Real to Real Talk, and you can follow us there and watch past episodes and check out what we're watching. On Instagram, you can find us at Real to Real Talk and see past show posters and things of the like. And here on YouTube, don't forget, please click that subscribe button if you haven't already, and the notification bell, so that in case you miss the live episodes week to week, you'll always know when they post. So we appreciate you joining us as we continue our episode here tonight. It's time now to talk about some weirdness, perhaps, as we jump into What the Hell Did I Just Watch with Paul. Paul, take it away.
Yeah, okay. So one of the movies we're going to be doing in a little bit is an entry called, during our real quick reviews, is an entry called Moonfall, directed by somebody near and dear to Sergio and my heart, Roland Emmerich. And everybody has to start somewhere, right? So I went ahead and found some early Roland Emmerich movies. That's right. So I went to his IMDb. I couldn't find his first ever feature film, but I found the next two, and so I watched them. So his second ever feature film is called was released in the United States called as Making Contact. It was originally released in Germany as Joey. And this is a movie about a kid named Joey who's the movie starts with he's at a funeral for his father, and he starts talking to his father through one of his toys, a toy phone that he has. And what I'm going to do here is just kind of try to tie where Roland Emmerich ends up with what we see in these movies, and by saying, okay, these are some of the notes that Roland Emmerich got on this movie. Okay, so first of all, the first note was, hey, Roland, your score was ridiculous and over the top and super ham-handed. That's great. Keep going with that. Just make your score as absurd as possible, and you're going to be good to go. Roland, you did this really cool thing where you camera panned over an empty room, over shit laying around on the empty room. Yes, keep that in your movies. That's definitely something you want to keep doing. Now, Roland, there was something that happened at the end of the movie. There's a group of kids in danger, and that's good. Like, you definitely want that to heighten the danger, the tension at the end of the movie by putting people in danger. However, the people you don't want to put in danger are the group of kids that were making fun of your protagonist for having a dead father. Like, maybe don't, in the first act of the movie, don't have them making fun of the lead for having a dead father. And then maybe, the thing that they're doing that puts them in trouble, maybe don't have that be them planning to kidnap the kid who they call the wuss from his house. Like, you might want to make it so that the people that are in danger are actually likable. It's just something you might want to do. And thankfully, Roland Emmerich listened to those notes in his future movies. A couple of other things I want to say is that this movie is like just an absolute love letter to Steven Spielberg. And it's like Roland Emmerich was sitting in the theater watching E.T. and he had a thought. It's like, what if during the E.T. phones home scene, instead of an extraterrestrial, it's a kid's dead father? And then that was the idea for the movie, and like the movie plays like E.T., a cross between E.T. and Poltergeist, and like with like all the special effects that are going. It's a love letter to Steven Spielberg, and it's on Tubi. I mean, seriously, check this one out. It's fantastically demented. The other movie that he came out with was a movie called Ghost Chase. Also known, that was what it was called in theaters. It was originally released in Germany as Hollywood Monster, and this is a movie that is about. This is a perplexing story, and so it's about like kids, but like their late teens, early 20s, making a movie. But then one of them finds out that he has inherited something from his dead grandfather, who's been dead for a super long time, but they were waiting until he turned 21 before he could actually get the thing. And it turns out that it was a clock that had the soul of the dead grandfather's butler. And then the dead grandfather's butler's soul gets transmuted into the mechanical dummy that they were using in the movie they were making. Okay, and the mechanical dummy for some reason looks like a human version of Yoda. It's really weird. And so the first note that Roland Emmerich got was, don't make things look like Yoda in your future movies. That's just not going to go over well. Make them look really weird. And I think he, just go overboard with how you make these creatures look. Don't, enough.
Can you take a second to highlight Pastel's comment?
Wait, I'm sorry.
A real grandfather clock.
A real grandfather clock. Yeah, it's a miniature grandfather clock. So a real grandfather clock, no, miniature grandfather clock. So that to clarify. So the interesting thing about this movie is the notes that he got was, it's cool that you wanted to make a movie that felt like Ghostbusters, and like a combination between Ghostbusters and Real Genius, but your last movie was a combination between Poltergeist and E.T. You need to just stop it and start doing different things. However, Roland Emmerich, one of the things that we really liked was at the end of this movie, you blew up a building. Just go with that. Like that needs to be the key. So this was the first movie that we got to see Roland Emmerich build up a building, people. I mean, you can find this if you look for Hollywood Monster full movie on YouTube. You can see this whole movie. At the very end, you get to see the first time that Roland Emmerich blows up a building. The principal from Breakfast Club pops in as the bad guy. I don't know what more you want from a film, but yeah, it features songs that are not by Huey Lewis, however, sound like songs that might have been done by Huey Lewis. It's very, it's
just
interesting.
The news?
What's that?
I said, so just the news?
Not even. Clearly not anyone's ever heard of before. It was an interest. Like, this movie is a very big departure for Roland and what he was doing with movies, because the only thing that I would say that carried over, like with the first one with Joey, it had the score, it had a lot of interesting things going on for it that would show up later. This one, the only thing that shows up later really is the blowing up of the building. Everything else is just like, I'm having a hard time understanding how this is a Roland Emmerich movie, but that's okay. So those are my movies this week.
Well, thank goodness you got to Stargate. So, all right. Well, again, Paul, you can always count on Paul to bring us the weirdness week to week. So make sure you swing by and check out What the Hell Did I Just Watch every week with Paul. It will not be in any way boring. So, all right. It's time for this week's Real Good TV, where I talk about television shows and things of that nature, because we have spent so much of our time over the years talking about movies. I'm just going to share really quickly that I finally gave in to a little show called Ted Lasso on Apple Plus, and I don't know why I resisted it. Probably just because I spent so much time watching movies and other shows and such. But I just happened to sit down to have some dinner, and my wife was watching Ted Lasso, and it was episode 5 of season 1. And I was like, I need to go backwards and pick up the first 4. And it is a fantastic, brilliant show. Jason Sudeikis, the entire cast, the writing is very clever. It's just a fantastic series. And I'm looking forward to starting season 2 here very soon. So I encourage you, if you haven't, check out Ted Lasso and you will not be disappointed. All right, it's time for this week's real quick reviews. And Kristen, Paul, I'm going to turn it over to you because you've got the first one.
Sure. So Kristen and I saw Jackass Forever over the weekend. Lots of penis. Just lots and lots and lots and lots and lots of penis.
As a lesbian, there's way too much penis. I've had my fill of penis.
Yeah. No, I would be hard pressed. I think we'd be hard pressed to find anybody who would watch this movie and be like, you know what? I think I could have seen a couple more dicks in this movie. Like I watched the show. I date back to the show. I loved the show. I watched the show. There are aspects of the show in this, and those are fantastic. And I was laughing hysterically during most of the first half hour, and then it just like, I don't know, it went overboard with the penis, and yeah, it lost me.
So I would say that, like, just like a once over.
Mm-hmm.
I laughed many times.
Yeah.
I cringed many times. Like
Sure.
every single Jackass movie.
Sure. That's okay.
But I also feel like it's not as creative as they have been in the past.
Yeah.
Like, I think back to the last movie, which had the jet engine.
Right.
And the whole jet engine skit to me is just so creative and so ridiculous. And that's why I liked it.
Mm-hmm.
But we really don't have that this now. Like, a lot of them are just very basic pranks,
Mm-hmm.
games. Like they had the one girl who had to lick a taser.
Yeah.
Like those types of things. But beyond that, like, it just doesn't feel as creative. It felt more tired, and kind of like when you or I were talking before we started the show, like, I liked it better as a TV show,
Right.
where there is a line, and most of the time, a lot of those skits were just like dumb kind of juvenile type of stunts, which are really a whole lot of fun.
Right.
But once you start getting to a point where you're gagging while watching it, it's just like, is this?
I don't need that. I don't need that.
Yeah, it's just like, is this the type of like movie I want to watch?
Right. The highlights of the movie were definitely the parts that could have been in the show. Like when they were going down like the slide onto the rock pit. I mean, everybody's seen things where people go down slides, but like going onto a rock pit is like hilarious. Like that's like, yeah, that's awesome. And like I was dying during the marching band scene.
The marching band was my favorite.
Oh my God, I was dying.
A marching band that goes on a full speed treadmill.
Yeah, it's just like, no, don't do that. But yeah, so I think we're in agreement. I think you and I definitely, like, I'm willing to tap into my juvenile humor, but I don't need to be reminded of my, obsession with my penis during that time frame.
Well, I have to ask. Every week when we rate movies, we use a 5 taco system. A movie can receive as many as 5 tacos. If you want to give it some extra love, you can give it guac. I'm very curious to see what this is going to be. So, Paul, Kristen, I'll turn it over to you for ratings for Jackass Forever.
I give it 2 out of 5 tacos. Just because 2 out of 5, it's like a respectable 5, where there are a lot of skits I had fun with. And if you're going in knowing this is a Jackass movie, I mean, I laughed and it did everything I expected it to. And if you're then great. The reviews, which like it has a positive on Rotten Tomatoes, made it sound like it was more sincere than it actually was.
Yeah.
So
Yeah.
like when I watched it and thought like, oh, there might have like there actually might be some emotional factor to it. There really isn't.
Mm.
And so like I think in that regard, like I thought there was going to be more than just a Jackass movie. And you know, if that's what you're going into it as, like I'm sure it's fine for you.
Yeah. And I was okay going into it as a Jackass movie. I just wanted it to be a little more and a little less. And I'm going to go ahead and say I also give it 2 tacos. There was enough in there that was, like you said, there's enough here that I enjoyed parts of it, but the overall experience was definitely negative and unnecessary in some cases. So,
Gotcha.
Yep.
All right. Well, Paul, you're going to bring us, at least this segment, to a close as you talk about a movie called Moonfall.
Yeah. So Moonfall, Roland Emmerich, the tie-in to my what the hell did I just watch this week? Sergio, we've espoused our understanding that his movies are not great, but we still like them anyway.
Exactly. Absolutely.
And like Roland Emmerich is, very much like Michael Bay. You do this, you're never gonna bat 100. Like like PTA, Wes Anderson, Fincher. These are people that pretty much bat. My level of enjoyment is definitely variable, but at the end of the day, I almost definitely at least liked the movie. Emmerich, is not in that scale. He has made movies which I have flat out disliked. I'm looking at you, Godzilla, and even 2012, which I enjoy on ridiculous level. But I enjoy the ridiculousness of 2012, but ultimately it doesn't work. And Moonfall, unfortunately, falls into that category. I really was stoked about this movie. I mean, the moon crashing into the earth. Yes, I'm in, of course. But ultimately, like what works in his movies that work is there's always an absurd premise, and you have to buy into the absurd premise.
Sure.
The times that it work, they don't ask you to also buy into the extreme absurdity of their solutions, like with Independence Day being like the cusp of that. Like right. Independence Day gets to the very precipice of stepping over okay, this is not going to fucking work. Like taking an Apple computer and assuming it'll be able to interface with its alien computer. Like that's a level of incredulity that I can buy into. The level of incredulity that you have to buy into in Moonfall for you to just be like, okay, sure, I buy into your premise. It's too much. It's just, this is not how it's going to be solved. You're not solving it with with Halle Berry and the dude from the horror movies where he's a 1970s guy that looked for ghosts. I can't remember the guy's name. I should have it teed up. You're not solving it with Halle Berry and that guy and Sam from Game of Thrones taking a space shuttle that hasn't flown in a decade and has spray paint all over it, like into space. Like that thing's not getting into fucking space. Just stop. Like it's just like the whole conceit that they're going to be able to take this space shuttle that has been retired and is in absolutely no flying order and like in space of a couple days, prop it up and get it ready to shoot off into space from California, where they don't shoot off fucking space shuttles. No, this isn't. It's not happening. You were insulting my knowledge of how the fucking space shuttle works. Go away, Roland.
So, Kristen, it sounds like I'm going to absolutely love this movie. So,
Yeah.
And Paul knows this.
Yeah, and I don't like this. Patrick Wilson. I'm sorry. And the movies.
Like,
the Insidious movies. So I'm sorry.
oh, gotcha. Okay.
So
1970s, actually.
So yeah, Serge, I hope you like it. I hope you love it.
I probably will. I love these kinds of silliness.
And you know what the other thing is, Roland? Seeing pieces of the moon crash into the side of a mountain is not what I paid for.
That's what I pay for.
No, I paid for seeing pieces of the moon crash into New York City, and then pieces of the moon crash into Tokyo, and then pieces of the moon crash into the Kremlin. That's what I wanted
more.
I want buildings. I want building destruction. Awesome. It crashed into a mountain that killed like 2 people. Stop. No. Slam it into a city.
So he didn't go far enough, is what you're saying. He didn't go far enough.
I don't understand it. Like all of a sudden, he's afraid of having things crash into famous monuments. Like
he's
really,
done it so many times.
But I want it again. That's what I'm there for.
He was trying to be creative.
All right. Well, he created himself into shit. I'm torn on this. I'm gonna go with a taco with guac.
Oh wow! Okay. Wow, that's brutal.
I was going to give it 2 tacos, but there's just too much. It's too much.
Yeah.
I can't. You're not taking off in that fucking space shuttle, Sam. You're not doing it. Sorry. Well, I know your dream was to go into space. You're way too heavy, and you're not taking off in the space shuttle that's been decommissioned for 10 years. It's not happening. They don't just have the fucking fuel laying around ready to go.
That taco plus guac is my motivator to get around to it this weekend, since I couldn't during the week. And I'm going to right now ask for 30 seconds next week to do a follow-up taco rating on Moonfall, because I am finally going to get to see it hopefully this weekend. So
please, I would eagerly anticipate that.
All right. Well, we leave it to all of you to go and catch some of these movies that we talk about here on the show. Jackass Forever and Moonfall this week. You can catch them in theaters and decide for yourself what would your taco ratings be, and share them with us on our social media. So it's been a fun full night of movie talking. Kristen, thank you as always. And I'm going to say more than honorary super guest. Whenever you are able to be here, the seat is ready for you. Thank you for joining us again this week.
I appreciate it, as always.
Excellent. And Paul, thank you as always for all that you bring as well. I look forward to doing this once again next week. Paul, I don't even know that we have a preview ready for next week. Am I behind, or where are we
at?
I'm
going to talk. I don't know about you guys. I'm going to talk about Death on the Nile.
That's right. That's right. That's right. Okay, good. We'll look forward to that next week. So much more coming in the next few weeks. So make sure that you join us. And and someday very soon we'll be talking about the Batman that has now been announced a runtime of almost 3 hours. So looking forward to that. All right. Well, to all of you out there watching, we thank you once again. We appreciate it. Don't forget, on YouTube, make sure you click that subscribe button, and also make sure you click the notification bell so you know when our episodes land week to week, and then go back in the catalog and watch past episodes, because you'll love the conversations that we have. Until next time, we say thank you, and more importantly, we say you are awesome, you're amazing, and the world's a better place because you are in it.